Hey guys, how's it going? I've been doing these Bible stories for a while now, but I have never done the story of the 10 Commandments. This is probably one of the most famous stories in the Bible, maybe even one of the most famous stories ever told. So let's dive into the story of the 10 Commandments. Now this story takes place after the Israelites have left slavery in Egypt, and they are now on their way to the Promised Land, and God has brought them out here to Mount Sinai, so he can give Moses the laws that the people are to follow. Now, these laws would become known as the 10 Commandments. The people are camped at the bottom of the mountain, and Moses goes up to the top of the mountain to meet with God. Moses was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and during this time God tells him to make the golden calf, so that the people will know that when they bow down to it and worship it, they are really just bowing down and worshipping a fake God. Because when Moses came down the mountain, the people saw the golden calf and began to worship it. They were so caught up in worshipping this calf that they didn't even hear when God spoke to them. God was so angry about this that he asked Moses if the people were truly his. And Moses replied, "Yes, they are your people, your own, O Lord." And he prayed that God would forgive them because they were his people. After this incident, Moses went back up the mountain to meet with God. And this time God gave him the 10 Commandments that the people of Israel were to follow. The first 4 of these commandments had to do with the worship of God. The last 6 commandments had to do with man's duty to each other. Let's look at the commandments themselves. The first commandment is, "You shall have no other gods before me." In other words, you can't put anything ahead of God in your life. At the time of Moses, the people of Israel were tempted to worship all kinds of false gods, like Baal or Ashtoreth, or even the Egyptian gods. And God wanted them to know that he alone was God, and that no other god should be placed ahead of him. The second commandment is, "You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the water under. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, am jealous." Here God is telling them that they go and make images to worship, because that is something that the people of Egypt did. They worshipped all kinds of gods and goddesses, gods of the underworld and gods of the sun and gods of nature. And God didn't want them to fall into the same trap. He wanted them to know that he alone was God, and they shouldn't be making statues or pictures to represent him. He is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The third commandment is, "You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for he will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name." The people knew not to say God's name casually or to use it in vain. Back then, God's name was very sacred. They didn't write it out, YHWH, but instead they would say Hashim, which means the name. They also used it similar to saying, "God damn it," or "Oh my God." But this was considered a very serious sin, and it was actually punishable by stoning. The fourth commandment is, "Honor your father and mother, so that your days may be long in the land the Lord your God is giving you." The people knew that if they honored their parents, they would live longer, and they knew that if they disobeyed this command, they would die earlier. So those were the first 4 commandments, and they had to do with how the people were to worship God. Let's now look at the last 6 commandments. The 5th commandment is, "You shall not murder." This one seems pretty straightforward, right? Like don't kill someone. But there were actually more circumstances where a person could break this law. If someone hated another person in their heart, if they plotted to take revenge on someone, or even if they cursed another person, they were breaking this commandment. The 6th commandment is, "You shall not commit adultery." This one also seems straightforward, but there were more circumstances where a person could break this law. For example, if a person looked lustfully at someone, they broke this commandment. The 7th commandment is, "You shall not steal." Don't take what belongs to someone else. The 8th commandment is, "You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor." When the Israelites were in slavery in Egypt, they knew how awful it felt when someone lied about them or testified falsely against them. They were beaten and punished for things they didn't do. So God gave this commandment so that nobody would have to go through that kind of pain again. The 9th commandment is, "You shall not covet your neighbor's house." You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Once again, this commandment says not to desire what belongs to another person. It's kind of like saying don't be a greedy sob. So there we have the 10 commandments. The main reason why God gave these commands was so that the people of Israel would know how to live holy lives. He wanted them to live pure lives that pleased him, He didn't give them these commandments because He wanted to restrict them or make their lives miserable. He gave them these commands because He loved them, and He wanted them to live the best life possible. After God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, they came down the mountain and wrote them on stone tablets. Then later, when God gave the people of Israel the promised land, these tablets were kept in the Ark of the Covenant, where they remained until the time of Jesus. When Jesus was tempted by the devil, He quoted the first 4 commandments. And when He was talking to a lawyer, He asked them which commandment was the greatest of all. And the lawyer said that the greatest of all was to love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your strength, and with all of your mind. And Jesus said that this was the first and most important commandment. And the second most important commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said that these 2 commandments summed up all of the other commandments. Okay, let's get into the quick review. The first 4 of these commandments had to do with the worship of God. The last 6 commandments had to do with man's duty to each other. Now, before we end, I just want to thank everyone who supported me over the past year. You guys have given me so much encouragement. I never thought that I would be able to make videos full time, but because of your support, here I am. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Also, I want to announce that we've started posting early access videos. What this means is that if you pay a certain amount per month, then you get to watch a video without ads, and usually a day or 2 before the public video comes out. Also, we're working on a study guide for the book of Romans. It's going to be awesome. We're putting a lot of work into it, but it will be worth it. So if you're interested, you can check it out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and supporting. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, Jesus loves you. Alright, let's do the game. Okay, what is the first commandment? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller. Come on guys, that's easy. You shall have no other gods before me. Okay, what is the 6th commandment? The 6th commandment is, you shall not commit adultery. Alright, what is the 9th commandment? That's another easy one. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Good job. Alright, what is the 5th commandment? The 5th commandment is, you shall not murder. Well, this is a hard one. What is the 4th commandment? Honor your father and mother, so that your days may be long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Wow, that's good. What is the 3rd commandment? You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for He will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses His name. That's right. Alright, what is the 2nd commandment? You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the water under. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, am jealous. And that's right. Good job. Alright, what is the 7th commandment? You shall not steal. That's right. Good job. What is the 8th commandment? You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. That's right. Good job. And that's the end of the game. See you next time.